One.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment in the 24-hour Block Party, the Collective Intelligence Block Party. We would like to regard this segment as beacons of color in a culture of normalized violence. And we wanted to bring about conversations to bring the perspective of why we make our lifestyle choices and how we connect the violence that's going on, the normalized violence, what's going on with our lifestyle choices. And one of my dear friends, Melvin, and I had a conversation this week on what we wanted to talk about. And we really went deeply into solution building. How do we create solutions? And what really resonated with us was about the human story, about how the story that we adopt and that navigates our choices and our behaviors, and how, at least for me, I understand that I didn't make conscious choices because I didn't have all of the information. And now that I do, and I see, and I make conscious choices for myself, it also brings an awareness and a consciousness to how other people are making unconscious choices based on not enough information. And there's a compassion that grows with that instead of judgment. And so I think it's really important that we understand the story that we tell ourselves that navigates our behaviors. And let's incorporate some of the truth that's still part of the illusion. And Melvin, my dear friend, is excellent at that. And I would like to invite him to kind of share the conversation we had last night about the story that we hold and the human story, this transformation that we're on, and how we make that connection to all the normalized violence we see today.
Well, thank you, Jackie. It's much different when you and I are chatting together than when you have this forum. And Jackie and I, we were talking about how can we tell a story that's unifying, that brings about solidarity. And that's the thing. We have, the murder of George Floyd really ignited something in the United States. That is the tragedy of his death, something positive has come out of it. And one of the things that we see really a diverse movement out there. We see everyone out there from different social and economic and racial, ethnic background and age group. And people out there in solidarity. Solidarity is something that drew them together. But it was an underlying dynamic, it was an underlying anger, it was an underlying frustration, it was an underlying fear that George's death seemed to pulverize, to bring to the surface in so many people. And it's a beautiful thing. And what we're looking at right now is what we're facing right now, and we're all here quite conscious of it. And that's why we have chosen to be vegans. We're really facing the sixth mass extinction on this earth. And we're not talking about 2050. We're not talking about 50 years from now or 40 years from now. It's really imminent. I don't know if it was Edgar Allan Poe who said this is the worst of time and the best of times.
Charles Dickens.
Charles Dickens, okay. And this is the best of time, thank you, and the worst of time. Because when you look at what's going on globally, locally and globally, it is quite menacing, it's quite threatening. But we have this opportunity to, the story that Sailesh put out, and I love it, to contribute to the greatest transformation in human history. And we have the opportunity to do that. We're poised to do that. We have all the resources, we have the technology, we have the ideas, we have the people to do this with. The thing is that there are millions of people like us around the world, of groups and individuals that spread globally. in India, in different parts of Africa, in Saudi Arabia, here in the United States, in Mexico, in New York, in Chicago, in Alabama, in Mississippi, all over the world, who we're all talking about the same thing. We all see the same damage that's being done to the world. We see this oppression. We see the brutalization of life itself, We are all appalled that babies are dying, not from starvation, but being blown up, being shot. Babies are starving in Aleppo, in Namibia, in the Sudan. These babies are dying. People are being brutalized the world over. The environment is being brutalized the world over. And what Jackie and I was talking about is how can we tell a story of solidarity, a story that can bring us all together? Because when you look at historically, any changes that has occurred in the world, whether we agree with them or not, there was a story that was told that people rallied around. When you look at the two largest fractions of the Muslims, the Sunni and the Shiite, there's a story that each group is telling. When you look at the different division of Christianity, there's a story that's being told in each, the Baptist, the Protestant, the Presbyterian, they all rally around that one story and they become a cohesive, solidified group. They have solidarity. What I think is important for us to do, for us to be more effective in this time right now, when we say it's the worst of time and the best of time, was to seize this time. It is most important that we tell a story of solidarity, a story that's inclusive, that's totally inclusive, that embraces everyone. We have to tell a story of inclusivity, a story of compassion, to where everyone feel that they are sitting at the table. Everyone feel that they're in. Everyone feel that they getting a piece of the action. We have to tell this story. And Jackie and I was thinking about what story can we tell? And that's the thing that we want to try to have this conversation about. What is a story that can bring us all together so that we can have this one voice, so that if someone is in New York or New Orleans or in the Sudan or in China or in Mexico or in Saudi Arabia or Iraq, we telling the same story. This is important. One of the things that I learned about the Chinese Revolution, what Mao Zedong and his people did, they pulled all the way back from fighting and they went and created a story that they educated the people with. They didn't do any fighting for years. They just had this one story. And once that story was there, they went out and said, now we could go fight. We have to have a unifying story. But unlike, the different branches of religion, their stories. But in the end, there are stories, unfortunately, that stifles life. There are stories that are mostly rooted in a patriarchal, hierarchical system, a mindset of separateness, domination, and privilege. So in telling the story that I think the story that we need to tell, it has to be a story to where there's no sense of privilege, there's no domination, and there's no separation. It has to be a story of inclusivity, interconnectedness, a story of empowerment, where the story that we're telling is not only about human, but better life on Earth. How can we contribute to the healthy evolution of life on Earth? That's the story we have to tell. How can we, each one of us, contribute to the healthy evolution of life on Earth? We are right now in a world where everything has been divided into race, color, social and economic status, and power. It's been divided like that. And that story has created a very divisive, vicious, and oppressive world. So we need to tell a story that's very inclusive and where people feel interconnected, a story that includes the animals and this earth. A story that promotes the regeneration of life for all people. We have to tell a story so that white people, and American particularly, will know that we understand that white men are being murdered by the police too. That pain is felt by us, and we know that. We have to make them feel inclusive. We have to tell us stories so that the working class whites and working class people in general will feel inclusive, will feel a part of it, so we can have solidarity. We have to tell a story to where people who are still in this mindset that they need to live by this model of consumerism. We have to tell a story to where they feel that, hey, I can let that go and still live a good quality life. We have to help us tell a story so that the animals on this earth are not being threatened and the forest is not being destroyed. And someone has been telling this story. I haven't done as much reading probably as many of you, but I've done a little bit. And I came up on a story that I love. And I think it's a unifying story. And part of this story that I recently was introduced to is about the 9 planetary boundaries. Probably familiar with that. The 9 planetary boundaries. This story was created in Stockholm, I forget, in maybe 10 years, 20 years ago, with these scientists. They identified 9 planetary boundaries that if we can live within these boundaries on Earth, we can flourish on this Earth. If we can live within these 9 planetary boundaries in their climate, the stratosphere, it is fresh water use, it is the ocean, it is the nitrogen and phosphorus on this earth. If we could live within these 9 boundaries, we could do fine. But what has happened in the last 150 years, particularly in the last 5 years, 4 of these here boundaries have been crossed. And these here planetary boundaries, these 9 planetary boundaries, they regulate the stability and the resiliency of all life on Earth that enables society to thrive, to exist, to allow us to exist. And we right now, we have crossed 4 of those planetary boundaries. And so we have to tell that, I think part of the story that we have to start telling is about these planetary boundaries, so we can have a whole picture of what's going on. Right now we have a picture, we fighting racism over here, we fighting economic inequality over here, we fighting bigotry over here, you know, we fighting educational disparity over here, we fighting police brutality over here. Those are all symptoms of a larger problem. They're all symptoms of a larger problem. You know, like I really like what Jamin is doing with the what we're talking about doing with the feeding people, you know, it's a great thing. But we also want to be, we have to talk about how can we tell a story where we can see that people have their core needs met. There's pure water, fresh air, comfortable shelter, safety from physical safety, you know, things like that, have the stuff that they need to thrive, the basic necessity to thrive on. We have to tell a story that's inclusive. And including this here story of the 9 planetary boundaries, I think that's very important to include the story of the 9 planetary boundaries, because it gives us a more serious and in-depth look at what we confronted with. You know, racism is horrible. Racism is horrific. But I think people of color, it's very important that we broaden the story to say, unless we can learn to live within these planetary boundaries, we're all doomed. And the only way we can get rid of racism is that we learn how to live within these planetary boundaries. And what's really driving racism, what's really the force behind racism? Also from these 9 planetary boundaries, learn about that, I got introduced to the work of Kate Rockworth. And she came up with the donut economics. It is so awesome. And she has this model developed, this donut economics. It's really, and it identifies 12 core needs that all humans need, and how we can meet these needs within these 12 planetary boundaries. So if we want to get rid of racism, this is the thing, and that me and Jackie was talking about. You know, we are marching, but if you really want to get rid of racism, you cannot get rid of racism until the social processes and structure that promotes and maintain racism is dismantled. It's dismantled. It's gone away. We can't get rid of economic inequality until that social system, those processes that promote and foster that, is gone. And one of the things that we were talking about, Jack and I, is this here part of the system of democracy is really rooted. What's the driving of democracy is just rooted in a mindset of separation, domination, and privilege. So as people of color, you know, if we want to change the system, we have to have a model. What we want to change it to? What type of system do we want to look at? Do we want to just have some black police chiefs out there, some black mayors, some black politicians? We had one. We had a brother Obama, you know, and there are black police chiefs and black mayors all over the place. But it hasn't made one dent, one iota difference in terms of police brutality, nor in the cities where they have the black mayors. You got your black people earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and you're millionaire. The poverty, the economic inequality, injustice is just as glaring. It's just as glaring. So what type of story can we start telling? You know, because life is a story. And as I said, the Sunnis, the Shiite, those guys got a story. And we have to have a story to where people in Minnesota, people in Chicago, the millions of people around the world who think like us, who feel like us, we can tell the same story. And people of color has to really move to be more effective in this thing that we want to do to make this world a better place for us all. I think it's important that the story be broadened to understand that we are all interconnected and we're all interrelated. and that we cannot get rid of racism if we still have attitudes or values or beliefs that say one group is worse than another group. Because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just that the person of a different color is saying it. So we have to create a story of inclusivity, ones that showing interconnectivity, a story that gets at the root of racism, and something that we want to do different. And Jackie, in that last paragraph of that sentence we wrote, I can't think of it. Can you, what was that quote that we said?
Let me bring it up. Okay, I'll read it. How do we transform our social systems to effectively serve the healing, integrity, and well-being of all life on Earth?
Yeah, how do we do that? You know, by at the same time while honoring diversity. While honoring the diversity that's in nature and that's in humans. How do we do that? And I think that's the story that we want to start telling. That we are diverse, that humans are a diverse population on this group, but we are mostly complementary in our diversity, just as in nature. All of the diversity in nature is complementary. So part of the story I think we need to start telling is about our complementarity, how we complement each other to make this here world a safer and better place, so that in about 2025, all the animals, wild animals, are not extinct. So we can see our vegan world by 2026. We can see it. And for all the vegans out there, regardless what background, nationality, social, economic status, it's a lot of us here in the United States. Like Sailesh has been pointed out, the growth has been exponential. It's just blowing up all over the place. I have friends, people that I know, when I started just eating healthy, they thought I was crazy, absolutely crazy. Now, most of them they taking this journey. They question it. They're questioning it. This thing is growing so fast. But now what we need to do, if we can all come under, tell the same story. And Sailesh has got it started with the greatest transformation in human history. I think that should be the story that we should be telling, that we want to contribute to the greatest transformation in human history. And then Kate Rothwell, she has contributed to their story about economics with the donut economic theory. It's very compelling. It's very inclusive. One of the things I like about Kate economics, she started economics with indigenous people, with the housewife. That's economics. It starts with humans, not with capital, not with supply and demand. Her economics, it starts with housewife, with women doing chores. So really humans, her theory of economics start with that. And then Shelley has given us a model of how we can organize what we want the world to look like.
Shelley Ostroff is,
Yeah.
Dr. Shelley Ostroff is one of the co-creators of the website Together in Creation. And she wrote the book, Deconstructing Democracy. And that's the publication that Melvin is referring to.
Yes, and she also, and she has whole systems health and healing, and the vitality code, and the codes for a healthy earth. And they think if we can, all vegans, if we can wrap our mind around those stories and telling those stories, because we have to tell a story that transcends ideological, racial, national boundaries. And Shelley's story does that. The donut story does. The donut economic transcend that. They have the language that transcends. Silas's story, it transcends that. And that's the story we have to tell that transcends ideology, national origin, and people's beliefs that one group is deserving more than another group. And these three stories that they are telling, I think is somehow is the story that we should tell in this small amount of time that we have to unify people, so we could have solidarity in bringing about the greatest transformation in human history. So I like to, I know I've said a lot. I got to be honest with you, I've never talked this much, this long in my life. Jackie put me on the spot.
Oh, you're excellent, because this is the only way to get that thought processes out. I know you very well, my dear friend, my brother. And when we get talking and we kind of forget that we have this platform and we're just connecting, this is where the magic happens, because we're just being real and authentic, and our hearts are communicating. And I think this is what I think is the magic of this, is that we are in the process. And I'm not saying there's no comparison. What I'm saying is that we that have made this lifestyle choice have given ourselves such a gift of reconnection to our spirit, to our soul, to our integrity. That is something that was taken from me. It was involuntary. I did not know that I was surrendering my sovereignty. I didn't realize that I was surrendering my spiritual health when I adopted a prescribed story that was given to me while I was still in my mother's womb. None of my food choices were my own. They were taught to me. They were built into my neural networking when I was in my mother's womb, and it was served to me as I was born. And then I believe that I make my choices. And so when we confront people with their food choices immediately, and it's just, and this is what I've noticed with my social justice and even education activism, is that people immediately get defensive because we're challenging good versus bad, this duality that we live in. And I think that's part of losing our humanity, is that we even start seeing ourselves as good or bad. And we're nature, we're the universe, we are light, we are love, we are spirit. There is no good or bad. There's life and there's is, and we have forgotten that connection with our humanity. We have adopted the stories that culture, society have told us that we are. And so that when we further question, especially people of color, that we already, when we're born into a culture and a society that it says you're already wrong, you're already bad. And now we're furthering telling people, wounding them and opening further wounds by saying, now your lifestyle choices are bad and the way you eat is bad. And when we're confronting, or we're trying to engage people that are, especially the communities that we come from, that are born into survival, that are born into an idea that I can raise myself up from being bad and wrong, and I can enter a culture where I work hard enough. If I do enough, if I become enough, then I can leave this paradigm and enter that one, and everything will be okay. That story is not real. That story is a creation of someone else's idea of who we are and how the universe works and how Earth works and how nature works, how the interconnectedness works. It's all a story. We're all humans. And we so easily hand over our sovereignty and our free will because we're born and conditioned to be that way. And I think one of the most beautiful stories that Melvin shares is when you were talking to Sailesh about veganism and about how you wanted to battle this unconsciousness that is maintaining this suffering and oppression in place. And when you made the connection to your food choices, how that was so transformative for you. Do you mind sharing that story? Because I love when you share it, because that's really what resonates with me, that people in that code like me, that code like you, that I love our communities, to understand that I had no idea that I was loving my children to death by feeding them what I was feeding them. I was loving my children to death, and what a betrayal that was to me as a human being, what a betrayal as a mother. And that's a story that we need to share to our brothers and sisters, that we are enabling this system through our unconsciousness and through our choices. And we think we're making our own choices, and we're not. And that's not fair, and it's not right. And when we make our food choices, when we shop, when we cook, those choices are votes. We vote with our dollars to promote and maintain the system that keeps us oppressed, that keeps us indentured servants, right? We go and we work in places like Amazon, we work really hard, and you pay for save for your retirement. We're paying off our indentured servitude. We work and work and work until one day we make enough and we save enough and we've paid our debt enough that we can just suppress a few more years and we can live. That's the life that we're born into. How is that okay with anyone? What's happening on the planet right now, how it's affecting us, we should all be on this. We will not have a life. There will not be a need for a mortgage and a need for a car payment and saving up, for whatever in a few years, because none of this is going to exist. There's an urgency on here. And the fact that vegans have already started making this choice, I think it's imperative that we understand that we have a moral obligation. We see a connection that many have not seen. And that's not judgment. It is the truth. It is the truth that we have seen a connection and we have made choices to not only better ourselves, but to better and ripple that healing to our communities, to our families, to our neighborhoods, to the world, to the animals, to Mother Earth. That's a choice that we've made. And I think that we have a moral obligation to look at our communities and our family members that look like us and help them understand why we make the choices that we do. That is just not, I just prefer not to eat meat. No, I will not vote my oppression into place another day. I will not vote one more dollar to maintain that knee on my neck and my son's neck and my uncle's neck and my father's neck. I will not. So Melvin, would you mind sharing that story when you made that connection?
Yeah, I was before I met Sailesh, I was going to see this here conventional doctor who had all these plaques on his walls and these awards and trophies and all this shit, wall just covered. And this man had been treating my high blood pressure, said he had been treating it for about 4 or 5 months. And I went in there one day and he said in the last 3 months, he said, your kidney function has decreased so much that you're going to be dead either on dialysis another 6 months. And I was only probably, I don't know, 52, 53, I don't know, something like that. And that scared the dickens out of me. I ran right from his office and went to the Southwest School of Naturopathic Medicine. And I started out there, and I had changed my diet, was doing the stuff that I was recommended to do. And that created this awareness about the food, the role that food has on one's health. But I still had not made that connection with food and oppression. I had not made that connection with food and this here whole social system of oppression and injustice locally and globally. I had not made that. But I have always wanted to fight against the system, like most of us wanted to do something. But I was feeling overwhelmed. I said, the system is so powerful. When you look at the industrial military complex, the corporations, the banks, the media, the universities, the church, the religious system, the newspaper, the TV, it's so powerful. I said, well, what can you do? And that's one day I was invited to a community gathering by a friend, and he introduced me to Silesh. Because I wanted to know, I said, how in the hell do you get all that information on a little chip? So how do you, on a little bitty chip, you can't even see with your eye, how do you get all that information on it? He said, well, I got a friend that probably can explain it to you. And he introduced me to Silesh. He explained it to me, but I still don't know how you get all that information on that little chip. I still don't know. It just, you had a whole encyclopedia on a little chip. You know, I still don't know how you do it. But anyway, and I was telling him, I mentioned almost the very same thing that I said to you guys. How do you fight? I said, like, how do you fight these bastards? You know, they got the military, they got the police, they got the tanks, they got the institutions, they got the banks, the schools. So how do you fight them? And he showed me, he opened his computer and he showed me this land over in India where some people from Britain or the United States went over there and bought this land and they fenced it off. And in a very short period of time, this land regenerated back into a forest. And he told me about that. And he mentioned veganism. And I said, that's it. I said, that's it right there. And he mentioned about veganism in animals. And I said, and he looked at him, I said, that's it. And that moment there, I said, that's how I could fight these bastards with my fork by going vegan. And I went vegan head on right then because it is true. It is true. And this is why veganism is such a threat to the system, and the system go to extraordinary lengths to try to, well, they don't try to do it anymore now before it in the past, because that looks totally stupid trying to discredit veganism now. But they still got their slick doctors out there sliding stuff in under veganism and said you can still eat some eggs, you can still eat some steak and stuff like that, and then do your vegan stuff. You know, they're still doing it. They're still doing it. But now it has grown so much that anyone in academia would just look totally, totally stupid to try to discredit veganism. And that's the thing that can help us change this world going vegan. Because when you look at the linchpin that's holding this system together, the three largest part of this economy, the largest part of this economy is food. And the main part of this food is animal agriculture. You have food, you got the petroleum ministry and bank. Those are the three linchpins to this economy. And what keeps them all afloat is food. And when we look at animal agriculture, when you look at the main thing that's killing humans in America, cardiovascular disease, cancers, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, the different type of arthritis. Only one culprit is there. It's only one: animal foods, animal food. So, and when you look at, you know, people of color, black people, black women are the most obese female population in America. Nobody dying more of diabetes than black people in America. Nobody's dying more. I'm talking about on a per capita basis. You know, when you look at a per capita basis, dying more of heart diseases and coronary vascular diseases.
Can I interject? I want to add something to that that was
Yeah.
really disturbing because it really plays, and I just did. I was meeting with a friend of mine earlier this week, and we were discussing this. And she said that she's creating this program. And she said, are you aware that 70%, more than 70% of the communities that are being affected and dying of COVID are the Black community? And I said, well, yeah, we know that, and it's through comorbidities. And she said, but did you know that 80% of that 70% were women?
Wow.
And that struck me really at home, because not only not only are we spiritually and intellectually have been oppressed, the divine feminine has been oppressed systemically, systematically, intentionally, because of our healing potential, because of our nurturing, because of our truth and our ability to be. But now in this crisis, our Black and brown women are the ones that are so close to source energy, that are closest to the earth, that have so much more of our remembering, our indigenous roots. Those are the ones that are being wiped out with what's going on. And that cannot be okay. It cannot be okay that they have oppressed our spirit, our intellect. They've caused us to forget who we are. In order to survive, we have adopted, unintentionally, unconsciously, masculine traits in order to survive in this world. And now our bodies now are being completely destroyed by this. You know, on a plant-based lifestyle, on a plant-based diet, not only did I reverse my hypertension and my diabetes, I'm no longer on anxiety medication. I lost 154 pounds. I am living my best life. And how do I not go back to my communities that are dropping? The women in my communities that we needed so much for us to come together now. So much we need our Black and brown women, our indigenous women, our women of color to come up and take our place and raise this consciousness. We all need to embrace all of our sisters to come together and raise up and bring this awareness and this connection and this healing to the planet, this light through our heart. And we're being eliminated. What is going to happen to our children, to our mother, to the universe, if we don't stand up and do something? There's an assault on Mother Earth, and it is bleeding into us, and that's not okay. So I just wanted to contribute and add that.
I also wanted to say something too. I apologize for coming late to this event, and thank you for what you shared. I really got a lot out of it, and what you're saying is so true. And so I'm Filipina. I'm the daughter of immigrants from the Philippines, and I don't know if you're aware that how Filipinos, we face health disparities as well here in the United States, because we are not, our traditional diet in the Philippines is mostly fruits and vegetables, and we eat a lot of tofu and lentils and mung beans, and so like eating dairy, like eating foods that are from like the milk, like from cows, and eating like eating a diet that is heavy in like the bodies of animals, the flesh of animals, is not really the traditional diet for most Filipinos. That those kinds of foods, especially the flesh of animals, is more the food of, in the Philippines, that's more the food that the wealthy eat, the very wealthy eat. That is not what most Filipinos eat. And so as a result of that, the rate of diabetes is very high, and hypertension among Filipino Americans and among Filipino immigrants. Not that long after they immigrate to the United States, it's very common for Filipinos to develop type 2 diabetes. And also, so another thing too is that Filipinos living in the United States are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, even if they're not overweight. So Filipinos who are not overweight, who have a normal weight, body weight, are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than overweight white Americans. And it's because we are just not, a big factor is the diet here. And so another aspect of this is social mobility and the desire to move up socially. And so even in the Philippines, when Filipinos, when they aspire to like move up in the social classes, they will eat a more Western diet. They will eat more ice cream. They will eat, and then not our traditional avocado ice cream either, or coconut based ice creams. They will eat more like dairy. They'll eat more like things like pizza and red meat, um, and American foods, and in the United States too, because they believe that that's like it's part of like moving up the social ladder. You know what I mean? Social mobility. And so yeah, like part of us healing, I agree with you, part of us healing ourselves, we need to heal ourselves as a community, and we need to decolonialize our diet, and we need to embrace our indigenous foods, and that is also part of our healing our communities and healing the earth. Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome, Malaya. Thank you so much for that contribution. I really appreciate you bringing that into the conversation. And in a little while, I really would like to invite you to further the conversation, because we really want to delve into how, as vegans of color, how are we going into our communities and contributing this knowledge and this wisdom into the communities to affect change.
Thank you, Malaya. And what you spoke to is what I came across years ago, and they call them migrational studies, and where people of color who ate traditional diets for years, and then they come to the United States. In 6 months, they have diabetes, impotency, all type of diseases, because they come over here, they get exposed to this Western diet. And you was right on spot about the social mobility matter issue. I know a lot of people, I mean a lot of people, I know some Black people won't eat beans, but they will eat steak, because beans has this connotation of being poor, low class, but they'll eat steak and ribeyes and hamburger and all of that stuff, because it has this here illusion of affluency that you're moving up, in social class, and really what it's saying that they really being closer to wanting to being white. That's what it really is. And instead of not, rather than acknowledging, like Jackie was saying, their uniqueness, the beauty, uh, the spirit that they was born with. And you was spot on about decolonizing our food. One of the things that is really has come to light in the recent years in the Black community is this thing about soul food, how really unhealthy that diet is of soul food. Is just totally unhealthy. It was once very prominent and romanticized, but now it is not, it's still there, but now is that awareness that all of that pork and beef and this Kool-Aid and all that stuff is doing harm to the body. And because we are creatures of it and conditioning. And one of the things that I find is so hard to do is to create that awareness that our food choices is killing us, because it's so ingrained in us. Like Jackie was saying earlier, it wasn't her choice when she was a baby. Her mother, and all of us was maybe not you, Malaya, but our parents were putting that, including you, James, were putting that that poison in us when we were babies, and they didn't know it. It was feeding us all that Gerber and all that other meat and sugary drinks and all that. They didn't know it. And we came out, the womb wanting that stuff, and we grew up. It was so readily available in the stores, and we got rewarded for it. And then you saw all of these images, and that, the more red meat you ate, the bigger hamburger, the more steak, the more affluent you were, and all of this stuff. So now it's so deeply entrenched in people of color minds that it is going to take maybe some facing almost life and death experiences to shake them away from that. You know, in my own family, if I didn't have my own house and my money, everybody would be still eating crazy. But I got my house and I got my own money, and my grandchildren and my daughters know, you come over here, you're gonna be a vegan. you just and just I say I'll compromise a little bit. You know, you could bring a little processed stuff, but we ain't going too far with that. So, because I'm in that position now. My grandchildren, they know when we go over Paw, we're gonna do the vegan thing, and we're not gonna have any soda pop. You're not going, be going, we'll go to, I'll buy my burrito or something like that from Taco Bell, a bean burrito or something. But we're not going to be getting them Big Macs and the bacon and all of that stuff falling off on the side, So I compromise some. But my point here is that is it's a Herculean task to help people change. And we just have to be very compassionate and very patient. And we just try to be a light and telling this story about veganism. Because when people find their own reasons to change, that's when people change. If a lot of work I've done was in counseling, and I know that when a person find their own reasons to change, they'll change. But even if they find their own reason to change, if they feel that hurdle is too far for them to jump, they become paralyzed. Even with people who have substance abuse problems, they know it's bad for them. But you say, do you think you could jump across this here? Yeah, I could go across it. But if you put that gap too far, they said, I can't do it. So transition over to veganism, for some people, it just seemed like it's just too much for them. So we have to come up with some strategies, some ways to help with compassion to bring them along with someone mentioned baby steps, or someone mentioned a better concept than baby steps the other day. But we have to take these here small steps to bring people of color along. One of the things that I find very, very healthy is tying it into the politics, is tying it directly into the health consequences. Because I have some male friends. When they come over my house now, I give them bacon without the oint. It's bacon that's made from tofu and bacon that's made from carrots. And I love bacon. I haven't eaten bacon probably 25 or 30 years. It got the same smell, the same texture of taste of carrots. Yeah, with bacon, it's the smell. My house be stinking like bacon. And they said, I had a couple friends, they said, man, because they know I'm a vegan. They said, man, you eating bacon? I said, I sure am. And I took it out the oven. They didn't even know that it was a carrot and soy until and when they tasted it, I said, that's vegan. That's not oint. We didn't have to kill a pig up. We didn't have to destroy the earth to me. And so, I think people do vote with their palate. So one of the things Jackie was saying, how can we help people of color to transition over? And Jackie and I, we were talking about this here. And we were on track to doing this here before this COVID. We was going to try to go. I know a couple of ministers that got churches. I'm pretty sure they would gave me and Jackie some time to come in and talk to the congregation. Not on a Sunday, of course, about veganism. And then at the end, have some vegan meals for them to come up there and eat vegan meals. Like the bacon and macaroni and cheese and all the stuff that's vegan. And buffalo wings that's vegan. And that's one strategy that we can do is having events at church or cookout. Me and Jack, I had hooked Jackie up with. There's an event in South Phoenix that happen every year, and it's big, and it's really truly a grassroots event that's organized by organized by men who in the past they were in the life, but they got out of that. Now they're home, they're fathers, their parents, but they have influence in the community. These are men can walk up to some of them guys and say, hey, turn the music down, and they'll turn the music down. Hey, stop that. And they would stop it because these guys were will walk up and say it. And these guys have organized an annual event there in the park. So when Jackie was in the process, I was in the process of introducing Jackie to one of the organizers so we could bring seeds to inspire in social injustice and veganism into what they're doing, you know, because these are true the leaders in the community. They're not the leaders by the city of Phoenix. You know, nobody made them leaders like that. The community made them leaders, you know. So we were talking about inviting them there to veganism, you know, about social injustice and making a connection between the social injustice, income disparity, and the chronic degenerative diseases that's killing up Black people by introducing them to veganism. So those are two of the things that Jackie and I we had on the agenda to do, because you know in Will Tuttle, he really brought it home to me very succinctly, is the power that we have with the fork. And that's the thing that the Black community has to realize, is the fork. We buy a whole lot of pork, a whole lot of sugary drink, a whole lot of that processed food. You know, if we stop doing it, you can start making the change. You know, I've mentioned the hog farms down in Arkansas and in Chicago, you know, in Illinois, in Iowa, these turkey farms where it's just sad, where people of color are trapped living in these here squalor, these diseases where the great grandfather had cancer, now the grandfather and all the children, everybody got cancer. Everybody got cancer, and they trapped living there. So I want to be in solidarity with them. What can I do to help those people? I could just stop eating pork, stop eating meat. That would go a long way. So I think this story, if we can start sharing that with Black people, you know, like what brought me, you want to fight, you really despise police brutality, you really despise economic injustice, exploitation. Here's one thing you can do: stop voting for it with the fork. And that's a very powerful thing we could do. But in doing that, we also have to, at the same time, um, that's creating awareness of what they can do. But we also have to show them how they can transition over to a vegan lifestyle, you know, gradually adding a vegan meal, you know, in their lifestyle. There's this movement right now, it's called Black Tuesday, where they asked all Black people not to buy anything. Was it is that wow, the 17th, as asking Black people to not to do any spending. There's this national movement out not to do any spending nationally, or just to go to Black businesses and buy things. Now, I think that has some is a good thing, but when you look at it really in depth and you look at it from a systemic point of view, from a whole system point of view, it's still maintaining the system of oppression. It's still maintaining the banking industry. You know, so going back to what I was saying, we have to start telling a new story. You know, as we people of color, if we want to transform the system and transform our lives, we have to tell a story, a new story, and we cannot continue using the same processes in the system that's in a place that created racism to try to cure racism. You're not going to do it through this here democratic process, going out and voting and all that stuff. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we have to create that awareness. We have to build something different. And Sailesh have laid it out with the framework, with the 7 core shift that we have to make. Kate Rockworth has laid it out with the donor economic shift we have to make. And also Shelley Osthoff have laid it out with what type of social structures, organizational structures, leadership do we want to have? You know, one of the things that Shelley talks about when she talks about transform into a new system, social system. Here's one of the codes that she says: ensure that people in position of leadership are skilled in applying the principles of whole system health and healing, and fully embody the values of integrity, courage, compassion, wisdom, commitment, service, expertise, and dedication to the good of the whole. Dedication to the good of the whole. So what Shelley is talking about is whole systems health and healing. That's the story we want to start telling, those three stories. And I'm trying to figure out a way to like synthesize those three stories into one story, into one fluid story. And I think that could be the unifying thing for us all. Because until we have a unifying story, we're going to be millions of us around this here world wanting to do the same thing, but disjoint, but not in solidarity. Like I said, the Sunni, the Shiite, they all have one story that they're telling. You may not agree with the story, but the difference in the story that we want to tell stories that promote the regeneration of life, not stories that place people in hierarchical position of power and authority. And that's one of the, I think in the Black movement is still within that hierarchical position of leadership where it is a position of hierarchy. And we have to have other models of leadership where it's decentralized, distributed leadership. And it's really hard for a lot of people to wrap their mind around. I don't think it's hard for women. One of the things that I was listening to Kate talk, and she was talking about all these here people who are at the forefront of making economic change, not economic growth, who are scholars and just really people who are doing like work like she was doing. All of them are women. They're women who coming up with these new models to make the world a better place. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think that reason is because the same reason that Black people were at the forefront of change in this country, because they've been hurt the worst. They've been oppressed the worst. They've been discriminated the worst. They've been kicked the worst, so they see it, like I had a friend tell me, and this a client recently, and I know this, but to hear it coming from a woman's voice, the way she did that, and she's a white lady, she said, men don't know what we go through, what we experience on a daily basis. Just don't know. I said, you're right. But hear the way she said it, the passion and hurt that she said it with. So that's why women are really at the forefront. If you look at this thing of veganism and everything, it's women who are really driving this here. It's women like Kate, these women scholars are really pushing it. And we have to honor that. And why women there? Because they're feeling the pinch worse and want to get their knee off the neck. So, I'd like to share one more thing that, something that kind of wrapping it up, what Jackie and I were talking about, and it's really come from Shelley, and this is part of her eco-governance and the vitality code, whole system health and healing. And, the whole thing, she said, what if humanity were in line and mass around the understanding that our individual and collective purpose in the world is to contribute to the healthy evolution of all life, of all life. What if that was the story we were all telling? Regardless if you are in New York, or Chicago, or in Sudan, or in Atlanta, you're in the university, you're in prison. What if we were telling that story? That our collective purpose, this is if humanity were aligned in mass. So we got millions of people, we tell them stuff, but what if everybody was saying that same voice in unison? And then we were applying these for leadership. You know, like at the head of them, we want to have leadership. We should say, well, what qualities do you want this leader to have? Do we want this to be this individual rough guy with the tough, broad chin and the broad shoulder and individual rational guy, you know, who make cold-hearted decisions? Nah. Shelley said what type of leaders we want to have. Someone who understands system thinking and whole system health and healing, who's compassionate and wisdom, who have compassion and wisdom. Those are the type of leaders we want to have. Not because the guy got a degree, an MBA, or because he's been in politics for a long time, but he came up and now he was the police chief, and now we're gonna make him the leader. you know. So a unifying voice, a story that we can tell. And I think that Shailesh, the greatest transformation in the world, the donut theory of economics, and Shelley, uh, eco-governance and the vitality code and the code for health. I think those are three stories. If we could wrap our mind around that, we can most quickly uh, uh, um, converge, have the solidarity that we need to have. Because long as we over here, Black people just focus on racism, that's all we want to do, get rid of racism. That's not going to solve anything. And we're not going to get rid of unless we deal with the whole. And then, you know, like in this thing right now, and I'm bringing this up because we have to talk about the white men are being killed by the cops too. We need to say it loud that they're being murdered by the police too. To hear their voice, to feel their pain, to show this inclusivity. And this same system that's killing white cops is the same system in process that's killing, white citizens is the same one that's killing Black citizens. And we need to have some solidarity around that. So we have to have language that creates that solidarity. And I think Shailesh has created the language. I think Kate has created the language. And Shelley has created the language.
I'd like to say that Dr.
Oh,
that you have is the founder and executive director of climatehealers.org. He's the founder of Vegan World 2026, Preventing Zero. So, you know, for those of us that are not familiar with him, or maybe pre-vegans that may be watching on the live stream, we're also talking about Dr. Shelley Ostrop, one of the co-founders of Together in Creation, and author of Deconstructing Democracy. Dr. Will Tuttle, author of The World Peace Diet. These are all resources that we use to educate ourselves and to awaken ourselves and remember who we are. And I also want to contribute that in addition to the story, it's the action. How do we step up as vegans of color that have made this connection and understand this? What action do we take? And it's got to be intentional, it's got to be effective, and it's got to be compassionate without judgment. If we want to help people, we don't want to change people. We want to help people. We want to bring an awareness to people so that they have agency and sovereignty to make educated choices for themselves. They don't know what they don't know. And I truly believe in humanity. I truly believe in people because I believe we are all the same. We're all mirror reflections of one another. And what has helped me, I know will help you, because you deserve to be your best. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to make your own choices. And we are not allowed to make our own choices. And that is evident every day. So if we could discuss how we bring the action into our communities, again, without judgment, but to bring that awareness. We know when we grow up, those of us that grew up in these underfunded, underrepresented communities, we know they're food deserts. We know we eat these foods because that's what's cheap and we don't have a lot of money. How do we reach those, like my parents that work 3 jobs each? How do we get people like that that are just on survival, that are exhausted, that are constantly looking just to make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, that this transformation, that this lifestyle choice can enhance their lives in ways that they cannot even fathom and imagine. I mean, as a young woman, a lot of my lifestyle choices were based on what I was trying not to be, like we were talking about. I was running from the story that I had inherited of who I was. I'm a Latina, I'm Hispanic. No, I'm a colonized woman. That's who I am. I code this way because my indigenous people were colonized. And then I had my brothers, sisters, and cousins wed other indigenous people that were brought from other continents here to then be servants and to then be enslaved. So we are all been enslaved and we've all been colonized because we were indigenous. So I no longer adopt the label that is put on me because of my colonization. I am an indigenous woman that was colonized. And for so long, I was taught by society and culture that that was bad and that was something to be ashamed of. And so all my lifestyle choices was to become the something that was not that. And when I chose veganism and I found the truth behind the plant-based lifestyle and all of the interconnectedness, it just made so much sense. And I became a person that was moving towards something and no longer away from anything. I was moving towards my truth, my identity, my sovereignty, the love, the compassion, the truth of who I am. And I let go of so much. I purged so much of the story that culture and society put on me. And I came back to truly who I was born to be. And that's the story that we need to share with people. It is our right to be who we were born to be. How do we go back and help and show that we can create our own food sources? How do we help one another and teach one another? That's our job, to me, as vegans of color, is that when we have raised ourselves on our own frequency and vibration, that we go and we ripple back that effectiveness, that healing to one another and show them, shine that light and that reflection and say, I did it. It worked for me. I'm healed. I'm happy. I'm joyful. And despite what happens around me in life, I am healthy enough and I'm grounded enough that I can flow with life, and I'm no longer a victim of life, that I flow with life. And things do change. Things do change from the inside out when we heal ourselves and when we can think clearly and honestly and compassionately. Things change around us and we create other communities that are more aligned with who we are and the world that we want, the world that we know that we can create. So I really want to invite all of us to think about, how can we cross-pollinate? How can we bring the resources that we have used in our communities and help other communities do the same thing? And how do we learn from one another? We should all have one network of all of us working together to ripple this message and this healing transformation. The greatest transformation in human history is us becoming who we really were born to be. And how do we help one another remember and do that?
Jackie, I really like what you shared so much, especially like how you said, like, maybe, I'm sorry, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, what you were trying to say, but that I felt like you were like, when you said that, like, it was like you going vegan helped you see like the interconnectedness of it all, and that how like you going vegan is kind of like a starting place for healing like yourself, and then healing like the rest of the world and the way that we're all interconnected. And I feel like white people and white vegans, they understand that, but they kind of like explain it in a way that is not relatable to people of color, because they'll say like, oh, well, it's this is best for the environment, you know what I mean? And then like these words that seem like abstract, you know what I mean? And of course like it's not like people of color don't care about the environment. That it's not like we don't care about the planet, that we don't care about animals or something like that. It's just that like I mean like people of color and Black people, we're the most affected by the climate crisis, right? Like we are the most we receive, I don't know how to explain it, like we're the most vulnerable to the effects of the climate crisis. And like the Philippines is the country that is unfortunately the most adversely affected by the climate crisis, because it's an island nation, it's a third world country, and also because of the weather patterns there and the reliance on the coral reefs. And so yeah, like I like the way that you put it, and like because I feel like, I don't know, since I became vegan, like I have met a lot of other vegans of color, but I tend to be like talking more about these sort of issues with white vegans. And I need to get back into like, you know, thinking about things like from a lens that like makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Because one thing that helped me go vegan actually was like thinking about the trauma that's happened to Filipinos and to my family and everything and my ancestors. That helped me see speciesism actually, you know? Helped me see speciesism and like and understand how like we're all interconnected. Because so I'm a descendant of slaves on my mom's side of the family. And so like that made me understand like, you know, the way that we treat animals, how humans, we feel like we can do anything with animals, you know, because they're different, and that it's okay, but they're someone and they feel and they have consciousness. And but then they don't own themselves. And so I understand that because I'm a descendant of slaves. And I'm a descendant of slaves, and we're the Ada people on my mom's side of the family. I'm a descendant of that ethnic group, and they live in the rainforests, and their way of life is much closer to the earth. And then because of that, I have an ancestor. She was by herself, probably like just walking in the rainforest where she lived, and she was kidnapped and taken from her home in the rainforest and made into a slave, and by another ethnic group. And she's darker, and that the Adas are darker. It's because of colorism in our culture. And so like um and so that's how I came to be a descendant of that's how I came to be the descendant of Ada people and of Tagalogs. And Tagalogs are lighter skinned Filipinos who benefited more from the colonization by Europeans, and so by the Spanish. And so um like I understand that, like I think like about my ancestor, and I think like, okay, when she was kidnapped and she was brought into this strange house and she was made a slave and everything, she was raped, I think like what she might have experienced and how it must have been bewildering for her and scary, right? And then how Tagalog thought this is okay because, you know, like she's different, her way is different. And then imagine her, she might not understand what they're saying because they're speaking a different language. And I think, what about with what we do with animals? Do you know what I mean? They have a language, their language is different, their way of life is different, but they have families, right? They have families, they're taken from their home. We feel like we could do whatever we want them. We feel like we can own them. And so that helped me see speciesism. And so maybe I could use this to like help Filipinos understand speciesism, help Filipinos see that this is like this veganism thing. It's not like a white thing. This is something that we need to do to heal ourselves. And, you know, to heal ourselves. And it starts with us. We need to do this because type 2 diabetes, right, in our community, the health disparities and everything. Using the language, the way of speaking, you know, so that Filipinos understand like our lens, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I was thinking about like how can I reach Filipinos, and like and how can I like bring this to other Filipinos, and what resources can we have in our own communities to help ourselves, like within our communities. And I was thinking like we need to grow more of our own food and grow like Filipino vegetables. We need to grow like long green beans and okra and squash. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. Oh, and like and Filipinos love singing. Maybe I could sing songs about like veganism. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. You have no idea. That is exactly why we are here, is to inspire one another, to learn from one another how we can support our communities, how we can go without judgment, How can we go in with love and bring this message of love and compassion and understand that I love you so much that I will fight for you more than you're fighting for yourself. Right now, I'm loving you more than you're loving yourself, and that's not okay. It's not okay for me to love you more than you love yourself. And
Malaya, I want to thank you for highlighting speciesism. You did a wonderful job in highlighting, making the connection between speciesism and the oppression of human beings in slavery. That was, I think, what you brought forth really broadened the perspective and enriched this here conversation, the connection you made with speciesism. And thank you very, very much. Can we hear from Sheila? You hear Sheila?
Sorry, it took me a little bit to unmute myself. I think this is great dialogue. Some of my thoughts that have come up is how important representation is, and how important for somebody to see themselves and somebody else and be able to relate to their experience, whether it's culturally or their life experience or wherever their age. And I think, I keep on going back to this place of, can we create some sort of Vegans of Color coalition, where we really have an opportunity to gather, we have an opportunity to discuss and even branch out, because there's such diversity in this panel and such diversity obviously in our community. And I think it's important that we go into our own communities, and we're able to speak intelligently and from experience and authentically from our own cultural experience. So I think, so that's just some of the thoughts that I have, given the conversation that's happening right now.
you're muted, Melvin.
Maya, are you there?
Hello, hi. Is this me or?
Yeah, Mia. Okay.
Yes, I am here. I'm just having a lot of trouble. Like I've been hearing to the dialogue of Jackie talking, Malaya. Oh my God, I just love her words. And the only problem that I have right now is my internet connection. It keeps on cutting off. And as soon as I try to put my video on, it kicks me out of here. So, but I'm listening here. I think I'll be a good listener while I'm here.
Well, thank you.
Melvin, would you mind sharing with us your experience with Spaces of Opportunity? I think that that's such an important um, initiative that was started here in South Phoenix. And every time you go to the garden and you share, you're so excited and you're so full of life and optimism. I love for you to share what's going on here in South Phoenix so that when this goes out and we spread this recording, I would like to inspire people to not only maybe co-create something like that, but maybe give us feedback on what they're doing in their community. So can you share your experience with Spaces of Opportunity?
My pleasure. My pleasure. And this is for Malaya. There is spaces where you can grow Filipino food here in the Valley. And one of the places where I'm at is called Spaces of Opportunity. And it's really like United Nations there. I kid you not. There are people from the Philippines, there are Hawaiians there are Colombians there are Africans there, straight from the motherland, from the Congos, from the Tanzania, from the Sudan, people, first generation Mexicans there. I mean, everybody is there. And Spaces of Opportunity is, I don't know how many acres of land. It could be 10 acres of land over, there might be more. but the land is owned by the Roosevelt School District. And this here organization called Spaces of Opportunity, and it is really a diverse organization. The commitment is um, to help people, community of color, to empower themselves to grow their own food, to eat healthier. So with Spaces of Opportunity, you can rent a row of land that is 50 feet long for $5 a month. And I have 3 rows, and I got my watermelons, my cantaloupes, and I have some honeydew and some spinach, not spinach, but collard green. All my collard greens and lettuce is so beautiful. My lettuce is so pretty. I don't want to eat it. It's so pretty. I just want to look at it. And I have some mint there. So it's a lot of people out there, and 90%, 95% of the gardeners there are women. The gardeners there. And I also do volunteer work there with Roots, Arizona Roots. And Arizona Roots is an organization that was committed by, I just knew her sister B. I can't think of her full name, but she was NBA basketball star. And
Project Roots Arizona, and it's Bridget Pettis.
yeah, Project Roots, yes. And they have, I think, more than a quarter of acre of land over there where they're growing food, and much of their food goes to the schools, the fresh vegetables, and to the farmers market. One of the things about Project Roots, the food that they send to the farmers market, because there's a farmers market there. I want to invite everyone to come to the farmers market this Saturday at 7 p.m. It's from 7 to 9, and it's really an awesome event. There in the Roots, the address for the Spaces for Opportunity. Spaces for Opportunity. I can't think of the address, but it's right off of 7th Avenue in Vineyard. You just go to Vineyard and go west on Vineyard, and you'll run into it. And on Saturday, they have a farmer's market. And one of the things that Roots do with their food to come out of the garden, they really don't sell it. It's a donation base where you can get zucchinis, tomatoes, kale, onions. You just go there and it's fresh, it's right from the garden, and you make a donation and you can get it. But there are other vendors there, also people who grow their food there. They, at the farmer's market, they are selling food. It's just like I said, it's like the United Nations there. The vibe there is so positive. And I have, like, I'm so proud of my watermelons that coming up, my cantaloupe. You can see my cantaloupe. You can see them. Look, I really got a cantaloupe there. I'm just hoping, hopefully I go back tomorrow. I'm going to see my watermelon, they're flowering, but I haven't seen a watermelon yet. So hopefully when I go there, I'll see a watermelon on the vine that's come out on the vine. There's another, it's called 40 Acres Without a Mule. It's a quarter acre of land that some sisters have. It's 2 sisters, and they growing all type of herbs and fruit and vegetables on their land. And I got together, when I first met them, they got the most juiciest peach trees. Oh my goodness. I harvested peach. These peach trees were so juicy. You just, as soon as you bite them, it just explode in your mouth and juices all over the place. So I went over there. This was about 2 months ago when I met Sister T and Sister J. I know them by J and T. So I saw that they needed a lot of work done on their land, and I put a call out to some brothers that I know. So we've been going over there on Saturdays doing a lot of weeding on their land to try to get all the weeds out, so that the food, the herbs and the vegetables, they got grapes and figs. They even got cotton on this land. They got growing cotton and something, a diverse crop of stuff they're growing over there. So for Malaya, if you want to grow some food, there's still the opportunity to do it right here in Phoenix. And I kid you not, it's just so diverse out there. The You just manage your own road. You get a road that's 50 feet long, and you have to. They'll make the road for you, but you have to manage that whole road, and they water it for you once a week. I go out there about 3 times a week and water my stuff because I don't know. I just don't think a watermelon is. It said watermelon, and I don't know how enough water gonna get in that watermelon 1 time a week, but they said it's all it requires. But I put more water on mine in that, more about 3 times a week. And you just love the vibe out there, the sense of community that's there. And it's really my therapy. I go there in the mornings. I didn't make it out there this morning, but I usually get there early in the morning or late in the evening, and tilling the earth, just doing that. There's a couple I met there. It's a real nice couple. They were in the tech world for a long time, and they started farming there. They have gotten out of they have been out of the tech world for 2 years, they told me, and making their living growing food. And they got a very pretty uh, complex process out there. They grow food. It's beautiful. It's beautiful where they grow. It's really beautiful. They put a lot of work into it, but the beauty, then it did cost a lot of money because the land is relatively cheap. It's $5 for a road that's 50 feet long, and I don't know how many roads they have. But they was able to put a water tank out there so they could control the water, and they put the water lines in there. It's really sophisticated what they're doing there. So I'm just saying that there to say that some people out there make a living from the guys from Africa, and this here other guy, he's I don't know, Arab descent. These guys some serious farmers. They grow a lot of stuff and they make their living from it. So it's that opportunity for people to do that too. But the sense of community that's out there, working the land, the friendship, the camaraderie that you have with people is just awesome. And once again, I want to invite, if you are able to come out this Saturday to the farmers market there. There's entertainment there. All is beautiful. The vibes, the children, the people just there um, showing appreciation for life and for one another. So Spaces for Opportunity is a great place if anybody wants to grow food. I think where I'm at now, let me say this here. When I started at Spaces for Opportunity last year, this is my second year, it has grown so much. And when I came back, there almost no spaces now. They're gonna have to get some more land so people can grow stuff. It has grown that much in the community. And once again, 95% of the gardeners out there are women. They're growing food. And I kid you not, there are families out there. There are families out there with their children, their husbands and wives or boyfriends, but it's mostly women that's out there growing food, taking food home, taking it to the farmers market, donating the food to schools, donating it to neighbors. And it's a wonderful thing. It's really a wonderful thing. Spaces for Opportunity.
So question for you, Melvin, do you feel like, kind of going to the question of action steps, do you feel like Spaces of Opportunity, I've been there, it is a very beautiful, what they've put together, and do you feel like that's an opportunity? That's an entryway, a gateway to connect to people that are already growing, they're already getting connected to the earth, they're growing vegetables, they're selling vegetables. You feel like that's an opportunity to make a connection?
Oh, yeah, that's one of the things that happened there. That's what's happening there. And that's what I like about it. And it's so easy, if you don't, the awareness is already there in that population out there. The awareness is there.
Is there a vendor opportunity for like seeds to inspire? Is there, I'm just trying to go further in terms of organized.
Well, on Saturdays, you can come out there with a booth. There are different on Saturdays where the farmers market. People not only selling food, there are people selling art stuff, jewelry stuff. there are people that are promoting what they're doing
But
as
do you feel
spaces
that
at
could
a
be
space
for
of opportunity.
a booth to be put up and a few volunteers along with Jackie and the conversation can come about. Maybe there could be some other gatherings that are set up that you invite people to. And I'm just asking if you feel like that's a good kind of connection for this organization.
Well, I don't know about the farmers market. I think for it might. I can't say. I don't know. For the Caesar spot, I think would do well there for the population that
Yeah.
come there. I see where you're going. You know, to create that awareness to
Create
place
that
seeds in the community,
connection.
among that population. Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I've always wondered, right? Is what is the best connector to various communities? Do you go with communities that are already kind of leaning in? You know, they're already challenging the norm. They're already going back to the roots. So is that the entryway, or do you go a completely different way? And so when you're talking about this organization that's really trying to challenge and make an alternative to these food deserts, and there's already kind of an awareness and action attached to that, would these organizations be open to hosting, co-hosting, or just even as simply, like I said, a booth at one of their events?
No doubt. I feel certain that the founders, the people who organized it, will be very receptive to it.
Do you
I've
know if any of those individuals are plant-based? Do you know if any of those individuals have taken those steps yet?
I think maybe I don't know. I don't know him on that level, but I can say this here that if it's helped and is beneficial to the community, they would welcome it. I have that confidence in the caliber of people who organizes spaces for opportunity. I just think they would jump on any opportunity to bring something positive to the community.
Mm-hmm.
I
Because
wanted, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to, I have to leave soon, and I'm really grateful, for this, for this opportunity to have talked with you all. And, I heard a lot of interesting things, and I feel inspired, and I wanted to, also say that, I think that the thing that Sheila brought up a little bit earlier about, having some sort of like, Vegans of Color coalition is a really excellent idea. Um, and so that way, like, we can network, and we could like, find ways to like reach more people, and how to bring veganism into our communities. And so I put my email address in the chat. So I'd like to keep in touch with you all. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malaya. Thank you.
Wow, I think she and Sheila brought it right down where we need to be. You know, the correlations and what type of action can we take? I like that.
And you know what, Melvin? I think the urgency is what we really need to really start bringing home, is that the time that was predicted, the time is gone. We've already entered, the tipping point is already here. We've already are expecting to see crop failures starting this fall itself. This has already begun. So
Yeah.
either we become victims to the changes, or we learn how to not only survive but thrive. And we know how to do it. It's our communities, excuse me, like Malai was saying, that are going to be the first ones to produce climate refugees. Okay, it's our communities will be the first ones to become the first climate refugees. And it is the children of our communities that will be the most affected. It's our children. There is an urgency here. We don't have time. We all have to do what we can. We have to be courageous enough to embody the spirit of our veganism, our lifestyle choices, our compassion, but our agency, our truth, And we have to start living that truth. We have to start embodying this. This is not a choice of whether what we pick up on our fork. This is a choice of our humanity, of our connectedness, of the love that we have for ourselves and for our communities and for the earth. And we must do something. We need to start helping our communities to understand what's happening. And it's not going to be easy. You know what? Changing wasn't easy. Making the lifestyle choice wasn't easy. So how do we go back and compassionately help others to do that in enough time? We have to do it. We don't have a choice.
So I also think that whenever whenever there is like discussion anywhere about like the climate crisis or about like different environmental or natural resource issues, um, and species extinction crisis, or like water scarcity or water crisis, veganism always needs to be brought up. Veganism always needs to be brought up, and also actually speciesism, right? Because if humanity thought more about how what are our actions, how they affect other species and their homes, which we call habitats, right? Then we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now, right? So so um, so I think that like whenever, so there's plenty of opportunities, like whenever there's any events or there's any discussion about those things, like even if you, I guess it's a little bit, in some ways it's a little bit challenging right now because of the pandemic, um but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to bring that up. And I also wanted to say, because I don't think that this has been discussed yet in this Zoom conversation, we have been talking about like how the exploitation of animals and speciesism is connected to the oppression of humans, especially like people of color and Black people. But also I'm sure, I mean, you are all aware of although it doesn't get that much media attention really, but the eating animals and the rising global demand for like the dead bodies of animals and their secretions for food um, is driving is the number one cause of destruction of the Amazon rainforest, which is actually the destruction of the Amazon rainforest for animal agriculture is causing the genocide of the indigenous people who live there, right? The people who live there, the humans that live there, that's what I mean to say. So whenever, it's not separate, like human rights and animal rights, it's not separate. So I think we need to emphasize that whenever we talk to people.
Ashe.
Beautifully put, Malaya. You are so eloquent. And I just want to add to what all of you are saying, and I just love all of your voices, and may the world hear your voices, is I think role modeling is really important. So plant beautiful gardens, edible gardens, you know, make art, live this out loud, and then it, you know, people can learn from all these actions we take as well as from our words, and we can uplift and inspire the community by creating beauty all around us, whether it's taking care of animals, planting, or making art, or however we find our using our gifts, each individual gifts that we come with, each individual comes with, that are God-given. I just again want to thank all of you for your beautiful voices. And I'm just, one thing that's been coming to me as I've been listening to all of you is, because people of color have been suppressed for so long, your voices haven't been heard. And there's so much spirit in your voices. There's so much soul in your voices. And I believe that with this renaissance we're going through, there's going to be a release of spirit or soul that's going to be so incredible. Like, I feel so uplifted by hearing all of your stories and your beautiful voices. And I just have tears of joy. And I say that, I just looked at the news, the statue of Leopold II in Belgium. It's all, my daughter's part Belgian. I lived many years in Brussels in Belgium. Leopold II was king of Belgium. He did terrible things in the Congo. And oppression, slavery, they had sugar plantations there. They just removed his statue from Brussels, which is huge. It's historic. And on the heels of that, Donald Trump has just declared the Seattle protesters terrorists.
Well, he calls vegans eco terrorists. So there you go.
Isn't that fabulous? Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and thank you for your voices. Just keep speaking, you know, and thank you, Jamin, for creating this platform for these beautiful voices to be heard. Awesome. And then July 3rd, we're going to be hosting 3 amazing artists. They're all part of Black Lives Matter. Malez is from the Sudan. Barry and Carol are 2 friends of mine from the Seattle area. They're African-American artists. And they will be talking about Black Lives Matter and their work and lives as, I guess I could call them activists. So I hope you guys will come join that conversation as well, and be present and share your voices with us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Well, then, oh, go ahead, Melvin. Go ahead.
Well, Jamin, I want to say that, you know, what you were doing is a very action orientated thing too, with Stone feeding. Uh, um, that's a very action orientated thing. And Jackie mentioned to me that there are 400 and something indigenous families here in the valley.
Yeah, what happened was we got an urgent call. Silesh was notified that there's 400 Navajo families that live in Tempe that need food. And so we've launched a huge action in that right now to immediately respond. We had no idea. We've been creating vegan food boxes for families that are financially affected by the health crisis, but we had no idea the gravity of in this just localized area. And so I was going to invite Jamie to quickly, in the last few minutes, just kind of express how we, as a community, as a family here, understand that our obligation to contribute to what's going on, and it's to feed everyone. And our mission is to feed everyone on the planet immune boosting, vitality supporting, plant-based meals. And so now that we have set this intention, this awareness is now coming to us so that we can, again, create this intentional action of love. So that's what we're working on right now.
That's the law of attraction, Jackie.
Yeah, and in fact, in our next segment coming up in a few minutes, it will be a 2-hour segment on food healers led by Silesh. So we're going to dive deep during that 2-hour segment. So everyone is welcome to stick around to that, and it'll be good. Yeah, we had a great meeting this morning. In fact, we've got some good stuff to recap, I'm sure, at the beginning of the segment. So
do they have masks, Jackie, down there?
No, they need masks as well.
You made masks? Okay.
No, they need.
Oh, they need masks. Okay. 470 families. Do you know how many members there are total in those families?
No, they just said 400 families. So what now right now, so I have some emails out and I'm waiting for responses for on Monday to see really the scope of individually how many people we're dealing with. And we have calls into St. Mary's, and there's a school district, there's a school in the district in Tempe that is willing to take on the distribution. So now we're looking at storage and then donations so we can make a mass call to action.
That's great. That's really great. That's just making me think that we need to get in touch with the local tribes here as well. Although a lot of the tribes here have casinos, so they're independently funded. Like Tulalip tribes have a casino.
And these are not even families that live on the reservation. These are families that live in Tempe. These are Navajo.
Uh,
And we had this action that we were going to go onto the reservations because of, again, how they're affected. We didn't even go into that.
Yeah.
But by this conversation, we've agreed, and Jamin offered this time slot to move forward, that every Friday we come together until.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to come together, have these conversations,
Yeah.
and create solutions, collaboratively create solutions with urgency as to how we can go and how we can help.
And it might be a good idea to invite some of the Indigenous leaders to come on this platform and talk. I just saw on Facebook a post saying Indigenous tribes want to be part of the talks on race,
Yes.
social justice.
So
So
let's
ought to invite them.
I just want everyone to invite. Just invite. Let's all come together. Let's invite other coalitions that are coming, that are doing this. Let's create this oneness, this one family where we can all go back to our individual homes and ripple this healing, and then come back and bring all these ideas once together, because it is our individuality, our neurodiversity, that creates this beautiful landscape that we live in, this human landscape. But it's our togetherness, it's our wholeness, right? It makes us who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that creates the family of non-separation. Yeah. Beautiful, Jackie. Beautiful, Melvin.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
you want to say any closing remarks before we hand it back over to Jamin and Melissa to say goodnight?
Well, only that I really appreciated the opportunity to be here, and Jamie for doing this here, and Sheila and Malaya for they really, to me, I got so much out of what they said. They brought it down home with me, and I thank you very much. And Jackie, once this here pandemic clears up, we can get back on that action thing that we was getting ready to start in South Phoenix and with the churches, taking that action. And Sheila, you're definitely gonna be a part of that because you're a cook, right?
I mean, I could do some things.
But you're a vegan cook, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm happy to help with that.
Yeah, see, yeah, because
I
that's
like to
one of
do
the things
music.
we're
I could
gonna
do
do.
something. I could do
When we
something.
go to talk to the churches after that, we're gonna say, here's some food. And we might even feed them before and don't even tell them it's vegan food. And then afterwards say, no, you just ate a whole lot of vegan food.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila knows when we have our events, we always have a party. We always have a house party when we invite the community to our events, because it's a family get together. We
Yes.
just don't know each other yet. So we have the music, we have the vegan food for free, so people can, start debunking those myths that they think about how we eat and what the food tastes like. Give away the free food taste. Dance. Let's be together. Let's talk. This is the environment, right? It's to see one another as family, to see one another as like, we don't know each other yet, but let's talk, let's hang out. And that's what we do. So Sheila, yes, you have wonderful gifts that you contribute.
Thank you. Thank you. I would love to participate. Thank you all for speaking and providing this platform. This is wonderful and so needed. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Sheila.
And thank you, Jackie, for inviting me and encouraging me. Like I said, I've never talked this much in my life. I think when I'm in front of a judge, I did a lot of talking.
Yeah.
You are a talent. You are an untapped talent, my friend. I love you dearly. And I didn't know until we met how much I needed you in my life.
Thank you, likewise.
Yeah, I just got to say, Melvin, you're like Jackie. The two of you are blooming in front of our eyes and becoming empowered. You're both so eloquent. You're such good leaders.
Oh, thank you.
And we need leaders like you in this world. So, wow, keep on it.
Thank you.
Guys.
Ashe.
Wow, beautiful. Such wonderful conversations, and I just have no words, because it's just like we're all being transformed together, and we're becoming one. We're coming together, and we just have this amazing channel, right? Through video conferencing and the new culture that we're co-creating. and the mission that we're on to care for all life.
Mhm.
What could be more beautiful? And so, you know, sometimes it just feels like we're on a river raft, right? And we're just all holding on to each other, you know, and just bouncing down together.
That makes me think of otters, you know, the creatures, otters, the river otters. When they sleep at night, they all connect arms together so that they float together as one raft, the whole family, so they don't get separated. That's kind of like us.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you said that. It's beautiful.
I'll see if I can find a photo of that, because it's so touching, you know. It's like, it's incredible. Let me see if I can find one.
That is so cool, the otters.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's
Nature is just so magnificent. Just so magnificent. Wow.
find it.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, I'm going to go to the garden right now. I was trying to debate should I go, but I think I need to get out there in the garden right now. And I really want to go see if my watermelons came up. I got to see them little puppies, you know. I guess I just see the melon there. Oh, oh, so cute. Wow.
Yeah.
And they do that with the whole entire, oh God, they're so dang cute. I mean,
Wow. You know, and this again,
look at this, you guys. The baby.
it just,
Mama with
it
her
just,
baby.
it just drives home again how we need to respect nature, you know, and what nature has created, that the animals have families and they love each other.
Yeah,
Oh, that's nothing but love.
that love. Oh my God.
There's Sailesh.
Better and better. Look at this one.
Wow.
What a great, oh my goodness. I love you.
Silas and Ray, welcome back. And everyone, welcome to stay along for the next 2-hour segment of Food Healers. So shall we stop? Let me stop the previous recording on Vegans of Color. And